buy a BMW, but you're not sure which one to buy? Well, behind me, I've got 3, maybe 4 of the best BMWs that there are in the market, and today we're gonna compare all 4 of them. First, we've got the BMW F80 M3 with the BMW S55 engine. Then we've got my G80 M3 with the S58 engine. Then we've got a BMW G20 M340i with the B58 engine. And finally, we've got the BMW A90 Toyota Supra with the B58 engine as well. And 4 of these are 4 of the best cars that you can buy on the market if you want to modify your car and make big power. And I actually happen to have owned 3 of them. I had an A90 Supra, then I moved on to the G20 M340i, and finally I moved on to the G80 M3. But I think it's safe to say that no matter what price range you're at, there's something here for everyone. So today we're going to talk about the pros and cons of each car. We're going to compare them, see how they're similar, see how they're different, and find out which one you should really buy depending on what you really want out of the car. So today, let's compare the F80, the G80, the G20, and the A90 Supra. So as some of you guys might know, I did own an A90 Supra in the past. Ever since I sold that car, I've really been missing it. What sets this car apart from the rest is that, one, it's technically not a BMW, even though it really is, because this car is built off of the BMW Z4 chassis, which means it's extremely light and weighs something like 3,400 pounds. And depending on whether you're stock or not, you could have about 400 to 500 horsepower on this car with about 3,400 to 3,600 pounds pushing only to the rear wheels. Between the power, the torque, and just how light this car is, it makes for a beautiful driving experience where this thing just takes off so quick. And so while the Supra is the lightest of the bunch, it is also one of the fastest, but it is the smallest, and that might be an issue if you plan to daily this car. Now, hopping on the inside, the entire inside of the Supra is just really small. As much as I miss this car, one of the reasons I did sell it is because it just was so small. He's got this beautiful carbon fiber steering wheel on here. The seats are super nice, but you hop in on the inside and you realize just how small this interior is. Now, I always say that I wish the Supra was built on the 2 Series chassis, because that would mean that it had rear seats. Because if you look behind you, there's 2 huge subwoofers and just the trunk. That's how small it is in here. It is barely big enough for 2 people to fit, and that is the one reason why I sold this car. Although it is a fantastic performance car, and with the B58 engine, and like I said, like 3,600 pounds, this car really moves. But if you're a bigger person, you might not fit in here. If you're planning to daily this car, it might not be the best. So when it comes to the pros and cons of the Supra, 1, it's very light. 2, they're also going down a lot in value right now. So I want to say you can find them for like mid to low 45s, especially if you get a 2020 model, which is the best year. It's also got the B58 engine, which is very reliable. But I'd say the cons are, 1, it only comes in rear-wheel drive. So if you are looking to daily this car, you might want to have a second car if you live somewhere where it snows a lot. And that's the exact reason I sold my Supra for this, the BMW M340i. Now, I think out of all of them, this is the perfect and most affordable car because you can find it for the cheapest out of all of these, and it also comes in both rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive versions. It has the same B58 engine that's in the Supra, so both of these cars can be modified to well over 500 horsepower with just bolt-ons. Looking at this, it really makes me miss my M340. This car is just so simple, so easy. Not to mention, it looks beautiful, just like the Supra. It just looks amazing. Hopping on the inside, you get the pre-LCI G-Series interior with these comfortable seats as well. Plenty of room in the back for people. Obviously, you got the BMW there. You need that. And both this car and the next car we're going to talk about, the G80, have pretty much the exact same interior. This one is a 2020 model, so it does have the pre-LCI interior, and that's a 2023, so it does have the LCI interior. But the interior on both of them are pretty much going to be the exact same, minus the bucket seats in that car. A lot of people like the pre-LCI interior because they think it just looks a lot more sporty. For what this car is and how affordable it is, you can get your hands on these for around 35K, depending on how many miles. If you want very low miles, you can get up to 40K. That is used, of course. I would never buy new. That is used, of course. I would never recommend buying new. The specialty of this car would have to be the fact that it's all-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive if you want to get that version, and it just has so much space and it's so affordable. You were getting a great BMW with the B58 engine for under 40 grand. That's not something you can save for any one of these other cars. And like I said, if you shop for higher mileage versions, you can get them much closer to 30. So that makes this car probably the best deal out of all of them. So the pros are, 1, it comes in all-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive. 2, you've got the great B58 engine that can be tuned to well over 500-600 horsepower, even way more if you put more money into it. And you've obviously got tons of space on the inside. I'd say the only downside to this car is that it kind of looks like a regular 3 Series, and to the untrained eye, this doesn't really look like a performance car. But if you want a sleeper, then I think this is the car for you. Let's move on to the G80 M3. Now, after owning my M340 for 2.5 years, I ended up trading it for a G80 because to me it seemed like the only logical upgrade. And after having this car for 5 or 6 months, I'm absolutely in love with it. And I can truly say that it is the perfect car. Now, different than the last 2 cars we talked about, the M340 and the Supra, this car is an M car, so it does 2 things very good. 1, it handles very good, and 2, it has an M engine, which means it comes with more horsepower from the factory. This has the twin-turbo S58 engine, which is built off the B58 platform. And in a nutshell, you can think of it as just a a B58 with an extra turbo and beefed up everything. This comes with about 500 horsepower from the factory, whereas these two cars get 500 horsepower once you do bolt-on mods. So these two modified comes with the same amount of horsepower that this does from the factory. And since my G80 is X-Drive, it weighs almost 4,000 pounds. Hopping on the inside, we do have the BMW LCI interior, which is pretty much just a flat screen TV around the top. We do have the BMW carbon bucket seats, which a lot of people are just completely in love with. This is a huge reason why people get this car. You gotta see it from the back. The bucket seats are just so beautiful. I've really never seen anything like this on any other car. It is very similar to the M340. Everything's kind of in the same place. The only real difference is the screen. Also, I must say, climate control functions are also in the screen on the LCI BMWs as opposed to the pre-LCI BMWs that have buttons. Fun thing about the G80 is it does come in both all-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive. You can click the setup mode right here and pop it into rear-wheel drive mode if you have an all-wheel drive version. So this car is technically both all-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive, and also has a four-wheel drive sport or like an MDM mode, and we'll talk about MDM mode when we get to the F80, but that's probably my favorite feature about this car. Also the fact that you can see my car is bright orange, which is a huge thing that's on the G80s, that they have so many beautiful individual colors. But the biggest downside to this car is the price. Now back when my Supra was new, I paid around $50,000 for it. I had it for a year and I traded it in for the M340, which was also 50 grand. And unfortunately, with inflation and everything that's going on today, that is kind of a good price for a good car. This exact one, which is considered a very good deal to me, cost me about 86 grand. Now that is a whole lot of money, and I would never, absolutely never even think about buying a car like this if I didn't make videos like this for you guys on YouTube. So if you're enjoying this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button because we've got a ton of great content coming up for you guys. However, if you take this car and you put bolt-on mods on it, you are easily making 750 horsepower to the wheel. That is a freaking insane number. To put 3 grand in mods into a car and make 750 wheel, that is almost unheard of. Name another car you can do that with. So I'd say the biggest pro about the G80 is 1, 750 to the wheel with just bolt-ons is insane. 2, it's got the X-Drive system that you can switch to rear-wheel drive and do some crazy donuts or burnouts. Also, all the individual colors it comes in is a great thing. But in terms of the biggest cons, it has to be the price. This thing is just much more expensive than any of these other two cars. Me personally, I totally think it's worth the price, but you really just have to think about how much you're looking to spend and how much you're looking to pay overall. And that brings me to this car, the BMW F80 M3. The only car of the bunch that I haven't owned, and that's not to brag, I just make poor financial decisions. This car isn't necessarily made to make big power for straight line speed, whereas I'd argue that the B58 engine is great for straight line speed. The S58 is kind of a mix of both, but the S55 in this car is more for that raw motorsport feel than it is for just going in a straight line like these two cars. You can really make any car do anything. When I say that this car isn't really for straight line, that doesn't mean you can't turn this into a drag racing car. And that also doesn't mean that the M340 and the G80 doesn't handle well. That just means that it's not necessarily their specialty, or it's not really what the engine or car is known for. But what the F80 is known for is being a fantastic handling car, because this car is rear-wheel drive only and it just handles so freaking well. Unlike the M340 and the G80, this car is an F chassis car, which means it's a little bit older, it's a little bit lighter. I believe this weighs about 3,600 pounds, maybe a little bit more. Also a little bit different is that the interior is just slightly older, not old by any means. The screen is a lot smaller, the seats are a lot older, but that's not a bad thing because this car still holds up to the modern time. This F80 is a fantastic car, and what I think that this car does the best is handling. If you want a fun car that you can rip around back roads and even get a little bit loose on the turns, I really think the F80 is the way to go. This is the last BMW M car to really have that raw analog feel. Like I said, you don't really have those digital dash stuff and those huge screens on the inside. This is really a driver's car. It's made for driving, unlike these other two cars, which are made to be more of a dailyable car. I'd even argue it's more fun to drive than this car or that car, because it just feels so much more in this car, from the steering to the suspension to everything. And I'm saying this, and it's the only car that I haven't owned. So if you're looking for a driving experience, the F80 is the way to go. They still make good power with bolt-ons. Comes with about 444 horsepower from the factory if you get a competition model, which isn't bad at all considering you're saving extra weight with this car over the G80. The only downside I talk about with this car is that there is one little issue, which is the crank hub, but it is much better suited for corners, back road driving, and even track driving. And another major difference I forgot to talk about is the fact that it comes with a DCT transmission, which is a lot better for something like sporty track driving as opposed to the 8-speed torque converter ZF 8-speed transmission that's in the G80 and the G20. Paired with the transmission, the weight, this is just much better of a race car than this car or that car. It's also decently affordable as opposed to what it was when it came out. You can find these for about $40,000 to $50,000 depending on what spec you get. First pro is that it's pretty affordable. Second one is that it's great for handling. Third is just how good it looks. I'd argue this is one of the best looking BMW M3s of all time. The only downsides I'd say is that it's only rear-wheel drive, even though it's technically not a downside. And I guess the last downside is that crank hub issue that I did speak speak about earlier, although it only happens to supposedly 1 to 2% of all cars ever. So now we're gonna rev all three of these cars and see which one of them sounds the best. S55 engine versus the B58 engine versus the S58. So I think we have the best configuration for all three of these cars. The M340 is catless with a full straight pipe, which I think that's what most people are gonna do instead of getting a full exhaust. But I do think the configuration we have on all three of these cars is probably the best and most common setup. The S58 and the G80 has a catless setup with a single resonated mid-pipe from IRL. The F80 also has a single mid-pipe with a catless setup as well. But out of these two cars, the S58 and the S55, I'm really torn and not sure which one I like more. Let me know in the comments down below which one of these cars sounded the best, the B58, the S58, or the S55. I believe that one is unresonated mid-pipe, while mine is a resonated mid-pipe. We both have the same stock axle back on, catless with single mid-pipes versus fully straight pipe on the B58. Most B58s I've seen are fully straight piped instead of having a real full exhaust. Now, if you asked me to choose a winner between all three of these cars, and even the Supra that's not here right now, I would have a very hard time choosing which one I like the most. Obviously, the G80 that I really worked my butt off to get would probably be the best, especially because it does everything that all these other cars do in just one complete package, but it also is the most expensive one. But if you include price into the equation, which one is the best car per dollar? If I had to choose one winner, I'd probably choose the F80. It does most of the things you want it to do for such a cheap price, under 50K for that car. That's probably what most people are gonna want to choose. So if you want the best driving, best handling car, 1000% go with the F80 M3 or an F82 M4 if you want a coupe version of that car, or if you want a little bit of a smaller car, get an F87 M2 competition with the same BMW S55 engine. This car probably makes the most horsepower out of all of them, but this car is definitely the best deal, best bang for your buck, because the power and the performance that you get for how much you're really paying for this, the fact that it comes in all-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive, that's a steal to me personally, and that's why I loved my M340 so much when I had it. Now, if you're looking for the lightest one of all of them, obviously go with the Supra that's not here right now. So for a fun lightweight experience, go with the Supra. For the best bang for your buck and affordability for a car that really does almost everything, get the M340. For a car that's a little bit more expensive but does everything the M340 does to the max and is both all-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive in literally just one package, 1000% go with the G80 M3. If you want the best handling car, the best driving experience out of all these cars, you've got to go with the F80 M3. If you want to see more of a direct comparison between the G80 and the M340, then watch this video right over here. And if you want to see a full comparison of my old M340 versus an F80 M3, watch this video right over here. Stay tuned for next week's video, because what's in these boxes right here is a ton of carbon fiber parts for the G80. I'll see y'all next week, and thanks for watching.